All right, I think we're ready to roll. All right, welcome everyone to week 13. This will pretty much be our last class of me teaching something. Next week, it'll just be a work project week where I'll be here to help with your assignment, but I won't be teaching next week. So a couple of announcements. So I got a couple of emails asking for clarification for the assignment. And I basically added to the frequently asked questions section for our assignment. So here's our assignment in Blackboard. And so I added to the bottom FAQs 3 questions. These actually 4. So the question is, what do I have to do with the labs and exercises? Do I have to do them again and include them in the project? Do they have to be the same that I already submitted? Answer, yes, use the same ones you submitted. Blackboard should allow you access to your previous submissions. If you didn't get quite perfect, you may try to perfect it. Suppose, though, you got 0 for 2 for lab 2 before reading week. Then you are free to try to do lab 2 again and submit it as a local zip file in Blackboard along with assignment 2. That way I receive your lab 2 before I mark your assignment 2. However, you won't get remarked for anything before reading week. So pretend you got 0 out of 2 for lab 2 before reading week. It still remains 0 out of 2 before reading week, but you potentially could get 2 out of 2 for assignment 2 for that question. Hopefully that's clear. As long as it works, okay? Like as long as your animation of the 50% works, you'll most likely get that 2 out of 2. If it doesn't work, then I don't know yet. I think you'll get docked for that. Because bottom line, you don't want, and I even say here, bottom line, if the animations don't work, why would any future employee want to see that in your portfolio? So another question is, will I be marked if the labs and exercises work or not? Like, for example, I submitted some labs, but you gave me no marks, so I submit the same, I will again get 0. Answer, if your previous labs and exercises don't work because you did not submit it or it never worked and you decided not to try to redo it for assignment 2, yet you still included it, you still get 0 out of 2 for that part. Bottom line, if the animations don't work, don't include it. Next question, can I include something similar? Answer, no. You still have to do the lab and exercise as instructed. Question, does this mean I can redo assignment 1 for the toggle if I got a 0? Answer, no. If you got a 0 for assignment 1, that's final. You'll get 0 out of 2 for that question. Assignment 2. Okay? For the, yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't mention that. So for the assignment 2, if you try to do the toggle and you got 0, no, it's a 0 out of 2. Yeah, I think I won't remark that at all. Yeah. So just don't bother. Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have here? Okay, going back to week 12, where I kind of messed up. Week 11, where I kind of messed up Adobe Animate. I think I mentioned this in videos, but just in case, if your Adobe Animate didn't work for you for the in-class exercise or the lab, don't worry, just do the quiz here and you're covered, okay? For those of you who got it working, great, you have something else to show off on your animation portfolio if you choose to include that. So that would have been week 10, I think. No? No, maybe. Oh, okay. But did you do that one? Okay, email me and we'll double check what's happening. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll leave it open. I'll leave it open because I messed that one up. I think yeah, whatever. Let's see, next week's class lesson. Yeah, okay, so cool. Do the quiz enough. All right, so today's is the final class that I'll be actually teaching something. This is Intro to Augmented Reality. So I've given you all a piece of paper that says the word hero on it. We're going to use that in a second for our in-class exercise. So just as a reminder, this is our web map. We are finally done We're going to focus on this AR section as well as a little bit on performance today, but we've pretty much visited the whole map. The only thing I really didn't touch really upon is this React View section. For those of you who took my course in the fall for JavaScript, I did touch on a little bit of the animation that you can do with Vue, but pretty much we've visited all the other elements on this map. So to do today, we're going to visit a little bit on the history of AR, some of the libraries involved to make that, and the last bit of class is just a little bit about going back to CSS stuff with performance. FYI. So what is augmented reality? So I found this really cool slide. You have basically two sides of that spectrum. On the left-hand side is reality, and everything on the right-hand side is virtual reality, where it's all artificial fake stuff. But everything in between that is called mixed reality. So where does augmented reality fit in that spectrum? It fits pretty much in the mixed reality category, just closer to the reality side on the left-hand side there. So for example, when you're watching something through your phone or through your browser, you do see reality, but in addition to the reality, you see perhaps some additional objects that are displayed as well. So let me just read this. Augmented reality is a live, direct, or indirect view of a physical, real-world environment whose elements are augmented or supplemented by computer-generated sensory inputs such as sound, video, graphics, or GPS data. So this field is relatively new. And so here's an example of an app that IKEA made. So I'm going to play this video to see. Let me just play that. So here is their app where through your phone, you can picture what potential new furniture would look like in your room. Right? So it's kind of cool. It's like you can turn it around, you can put it on your carpet, you can change colors. That way you're not surprised when you buy their furniture. So it's a pretty cool example to see if potential furniture fits within your decor. Right? So that's cool. Here's other examples for example, gaming here. So let me just play a little bit of this one. This game here. So you're viewing the real table. It's just that you have to kind of move these objects around. Oops. So that the laser beam kind of fires at the right target in order for the missile to launch. That's something you can do with that. Let's try it. You can also have augmented reality in the field of education. So for example, it's much more interactive and therefore more enjoyable for students to learn about these things if it's more interactive, right? Instead of just reading boring books, you could have some kind of cool augmented reality happening, and perhaps you could interact with it. So here on the left-hand side, I did want to focus on the left-hand side here. Notice that this augmented reality example is using a paper-based marker, whereas this one here isn't. So today we're going to use the paper-based marker. This can be used for many different fields. So it can be used for different industries. For example, let's take the picture on the left-hand side. Let's say this is like a job that requires safety. You could potentially wear these goggles that gives you information about what you're looking at so that you don't accidentally touch something you're not supposed to and explode the building, kind of thing. Maybe on the right-hand side here, you're looking at some shoes, something to buy, and through your phone, it's now going to tell you more information about the product. Now, this chart that I came across is really neat. So this company has researched all the different kinds of technologies throughout the decades that have propelled the tech industry. So back in the 70s and 80s, you have the personal computer, right? The PC. That's what revolutionized the computing world. Then, the 90s, 2000s, you got the internet. That was the next big thing that propelled it even further. Then you have mobile. That's the next big thing after that. And they're predicting that this whole virtual reality, augmented reality, that is the next huge thing that's going to make billions of dollars. So this could be, we're on the cutting edge of what could be the next big thing, according to them. Another company, kind of similar, you may have heard of a company called Gartner. Every year they do this hype cycle for emerging technologies, and this is the one for 2018. And so this is called, basically they can predict how long a new thing will stabilize in the market, or if it's going to fail and drop off the face of the earth, never to be seen again. So this is called the hype cycle. So every new technology that comes out, it goes through this hype cycle. And everything on the downslope is, okay, so everything here near the top, that's its peak. Everything on the downslope is on the decline. But in order to stabilize in the market, it has to reach here at the end of this curve, okay? So if it drops off the face of the earth, you'll see the objects going like this, in this trajectory, like a normal bell curve, right? Up, down. But if it's going to stabilize, then you should see the objects follow that curve. So where's augmented reality? It's right here. And compared to last year augmented reality was where this dot was. So you can see it is curving, and soon it will be, relatively soon, it should be more stable in the market. So it is making a turn, and some are predicting that actually AR will overtake VR, which is interesting, which I can see that. So a little bit of history of AR. So there's this guy named Jerome Etienne, early 2017, and his mission was to bring augmented reality to the web, because he did not like the fact that the current augmented reality at the time required you to download something. He wanted it to be accessible to everyone. So he created this thing called AR.js, which is a library that runs very fast. It supports Android, iOS, and Windows phones at the time. It was a pure web solution. There was no installation required. It was open source. It works with any modern browser with WebGL and WebRTC. It was pure JavaScript, and it was based on 3.js and something else called JS AR Toolkit 5 at the time. So that was early 2017. Fast forward a few months into June of 2017. All of a sudden, Apple created something called ARKit. So let me just read this. ARKit build unparalleled augmented reality experiences for hundreds of millions of users on iOS 11, the biggest AR platform in the world. ARKit blends digital objects and information with the environment around you, taking apps far beyond the screen and freeing them to interact with the real world in entirely new ways. So this was a bombshell because it used markerless tracking. Right before, you had to use the paper-based markers to have augmented. Now this was the first one where you did not need the paper anymore. It was markerless tracking. It also had the ability to do hit testing. So what that means is hit testing means through your phone, like if you pan your surroundings and you see the floor, the ground around you, it'll scan the ground, it'll recognize it's the ground, and it'll place the object in proportion on that ground. So that's called ability to do hit testing on the real world. And it was available on a monocular camera. So what's a monocular camera? Here's an example. This is one's called HoloLens, created by Microsoft. So through the glasses, again, similar to the other slide, he's seeing additional information in order to do his job correctly. So this one, again, is created by Microsoft. There's all kinds of monocular glasses. Let me show you the traditional one that probably everyone knows, the cheapest one anyway, is Google Cardboard. So Google Cardboard, you put your phone in there, put it together, and you get, so basically you get that effect, which by the way kind of reminds me of this. I don't know if anyone of you had played with this toy. It was a classic red toy about 3D. What is that? No, this one right here. This one. Yeah. What do you call that? Yeah, I had that one. It kind of reminds me of that. Yeah. I have a link here called See Other Smart Glasses, which is a relatively new article within the past year. So the best augmented reality glasses for 2019, it lists some of them. Let's check out some of these glasses and their prices. So HoloLens 2, how much is that? $3,500. Vuzix Blade Commercial Edge, that looks cool. How much is that? $1,000. So you have this one looks pretty normal. North Focals, how much is that? Oh, $600, okay. Solos, 405, okay. So these are just some of the companies. I'm pretty sure as time goes on, some of these companies will either succeed or flop. So you probably won't see some of them at all in the future. So Apple created ARKit. How does Google respond? Google, as a competitor of Apple, responds with AR Core in August of that same year. So now you have two main competitors. You have Google's AR Core versus Apple's ARKit. Both were very good. Both basically did the same thing. It was a good thing because Apple no longer had a monopoly on AR, right? So more competition is good for us. So let me just read this. So AR Core is a platform for building augmented reality apps on Android. AR Core uses 3 key technologies to integrate virtual content with the real world as seen through your phone's camera. You have motion tracking, environmental understanding, and light estimation. Okay, fast forward. Google then does something nice for us. They exposed augmented reality on the web. So what happened is Google exposed AR Core and Apple's ARKit to the web so that, I think I'm on the wrong slide here. Yeah, I'm on the wrong slide. Let me go back one. So you have two main competitors, both were good, but however, here's the downside. Both ARKit and AR Core were native implementations for their respective phones and not something you can easily reach from the web. Fast forward, now is what I want to talk about. Google did something nice. Google exposed AR on the web. So Google took their AR Core and created Web AR on AR Core, and took Apple's ARKit and created Web AR on ARKit. So those two new technologies are now open on the web. I'm going to show you some examples of, as you can see some examples right here. I'm going to show you some more. So let's take this one right here, AR Core example. Let me play this one. So this one's using AR Core. You're stepping through a doorway, like a portal, which leads to a totally different place in the world. Those are like, what is that? I don't even know. Birds. And there's the same portal where you step back, you're traveling, you're walking, physically walking there. Now you're back to your original location. Kind of neat, right? Let's try another one. Here. Another example we built with AR Core. The detail is quite astounding. Neat. Again, it's markerless. There's no markers on the ground. It's just there. That's pretty cool. So, with this fast-changing technology, Jerome Etienne, who's the creator of ARJS, he had some deep questions to ask about his stuff that he created, because all of a sudden his stuff is obsolete. So, where does ARJS fit now? Is the question he asked himself, and the answer is he made ARJS available in something called A-Frame, which is what you're going to play with for your in-class exercise today. So ARJS, he made it available to something called the A-Frame API. He also made ARJS available to some other company called Babylon.js. ARJS now supports both AR Core and ARKit. On AR Core, ARJS will use the core tracking, but on Apple, it'll use the Apple tracking. And on the normal phone, it'll just use pure web tracking. So basically, that means you have one source for all the different platforms. So that's where we are at today. So here's an example of his ARJS. Let me see here. So this is just pure ARJS. You see a duck on your desk. So that's what we're going to play with now. This is what we're going to play with now. So A-Frame, think of A-Frame as a bunch of custom HTML tags where it allows you to create all of these 3D objects in the augmented world. Okay. So A-Frame is built on top of WebGL and on top of Three.js and custom elements. So here's an example of what A-Frame can do. Let's open up their example. Here's their So if I click and drag the mouse, I can control which direction I'm seeing. If I click on return, I can see a different angle of where I'm at for the balloon. So this is the kind of thing that A-Frame can do with just simple custom markup tags. Let's take a look at their documentation. If I say get started here, click on get started. This markup, this HTML markup is all you need to do to create a basic augmented reality scene. And that's what we're going to do now. So basically, if you look at their code, just zoom in for this a second, all they have is a script to their A-Frame.js. Then you create a scene here using your markup A scene. And then inside your A scene, you're going to put a bunch of different objects and to create your scene. Just a word on the concept of tracking. There's actually 5 different kinds of tracking. So the first one that we'll play with today is this one, where we'll use markers, where you're holding a piece of paper and an object appears on it. There's also geo-tracking, which all of you have heard, right, with Pokemon Go a couple years ago, a few years ago. That's where you have, that's pretty much everyone knows that. Everyone knows Snapchat, which is face tracking. FYI, face tracking is totally different from face recognition. Face tracking is much simpler. It's just locating your eyes and nose so you can place place objects on them, whereas face recognition is more intensive. Then you have color tracking and you have object tracking. So this is where you get to play. This is where my promise to be the most fun class begins here. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. In the slide, click on that, and then click on the code pen and fork my code pen so you have it. Okay. Let me see here. So we're going to go step by step here. So I say here in my slides, include the following scripts. I believe I already included that. Let me just double check. Is A-Frame there? Yes. Raw Git is there? Yes. 3x AR Toolkit context is there. Yes. No, hold on. What is that? Yes. Okay, so the next slide here. Here's your step 1. Okay. So in the body tag, we're going to add this markup. So you can either copy and paste this markup or type it out yourself. Go ahead, do that now in your body tag. Let me magnify that. Yeah, inside the body tag, put this markup. Create some space between the A scene tags, though, because you're going to insert. Everyone good? No? Okay. So what we're doing with this markup here is we're just adding a scene. Okay. Other kinds of libraries like 3JS, they have a similar kind of thing. We're just creating a scene first before you actually put objects in that scene. Again, A-Frame, which is what we're using, this is called A-Frame, is built on top of 3JS. Okay. All right. Next slide. Step 2, add a marker camera tag. So this is the same as last slide. The only difference is this line right here. So add that one line. Yeah, within the A scene, yes. I don't think the order matters, but I just put it at the bottom. So within the A scene, add that markup. Oh, you see yourself on screen right now? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, allow it to use the webcam so you can see yourself on screen. Okay, we're good? So what this line here is saying is that right here where it says preset equals hero, you're telling it, hey camera, I want you to recognize this hero image. So when I put it in front of the screen, it'll do something. Okay. Step 3. Next slide. Add a simple box object. So this is the only new line now. You've done all the other lines. This is the only new line that you're going to add, is this box object. Go ahead and add that markup. You already see it, Matt? Yeah. So notice also, notice when you're adding this box, it has an attribute called position. Currently it's set at 0, 0.50. Keep that in mind. I'm going to mention that a little bit later. Just keep that in mind. Final step after you've added that markup. Next slide, final slide. Step 4, show your paper-based marker to your webcam to see if any object shows up. If you did not print it, for those of you who might be watching from home, for example, there is a link here called tiny.cc/hero, where if you click it, you can see the image. So go ahead and use your own phone to open this tiny.cc image so that your phone displays the image, and then show your phone to your webcam. That should work also. Okay, so try it out. See what you get. Show the marker. And in some cases, maybe the phone might be better than the paper because it wants the brightness of the phone. Whereas in this dark room, this dark classroom, it might not work as well. Show of hands who's got it working. Awesome. Here's your, actually, let me here's the next, before I say here's your next challenge, let me just quickly copy and paste markup here and put it in here. And where's my stuff here? So you should see something like this, right? So you're showing your marker and it's sometimes your fingers get in the way, and I've noticed if your fingers get in the way, it won't work. And sometimes if the paper isn't quite as flat, it won't work. Yeah, it only works on one. And you could turn it kind of, and it follows how you turn, which is kind of neat. All right, here is your next challenge using the same what you just created. Can I change the color? Yes, I can. Let's take a look at how the documentations. Here is the documentation to MDN, right? So here is how you would change a color. Element.set attribute name and value. Let's try to change the color. Okay, in our JavaScript here, let's do a document query selector on the box. So let's say const box equals document query selector. Question to you, what should I put in that query selector? Brackets. What's the argument? Yeah, so let's put in a box. And then the next line of code would be similar to MDN's documentation. It would be box.set attribute. And then let's try to change the color. So put in quotations the word color, put a comma, and then put in quotations whatever color you want after that. I put green. And then try it out. Try that out, try a different color. Okay. Yeah, you could try it. Try it. Let's instead of green, let's try it. Let's say let's try some kind of X value. A, B, C, D, E, F. Where's that? I don't know. Try it. Yeah, it works. Cool. Yeah, this is the JavaScript I added. Show of hands, you got the color change? Cool. Next challenge. Let's try to change the opacity. So next line of code in JavaScript, say box.set attribute, and then opacity in quotations, comma, and put the literal number 0.5. I'm going to change it back to green because I like green. Time quotes, green. There we go. Where is it? There it is. I look around the classroom and everyone's doing the same face when they show. It's great. Okay. So you've done the opacity. Here's your next challenge. Next slide. Okay, so for the next 20 or so minutes, I want you to experiment adding these different objects. So here is the markup for, oh crap, where'd it go? Here's the markup for a sphere. Here's the markup for a cylinder. Here's the markup for a single plane, two-dimensional plane. Here's the markup to add some text. Here's a markup to add your own custom image. So I want you to try out different objects. So try replacing the box with one of these, okay, and see how it comes out. And I want you to play with it such that I want you to create a combination of objects on the same scene. And this is where, remember how I asked you to remember that position attribute? This is where you can play with the position attribute, putting the box not right at the center of the paper, but rather maybe offside, just to the left of the paper. You could do that with all the different position parameters there. You can play with that. Also for in-class exercise, this is important. Add your initials using the appropriate A-frame markup. So here is the markup you'd want to use. And so add your initials. And then to hand in your in-class exercise, once you've created your final creation, after you've played after 20 minutes or so, I want you to create a screenshot of your creation and submit that in Blackboard. Bonus marks, as you can see here, I said here for week 13, I said here, bonus +1, I'll give you a bonus mark if instead of a still screenshot for step 4 above, rather you create a GIF for 3 to 7 seconds in length showing how your augmented reality objects move as you rotate and move your hero marker around. Okay, because I think that would be way better than a still screenshot for your portfolio. So that's one. So for the next 20 or so minutes, I want you to create your own creation and submit your still screenshot or submit your GIF for your in-class exercise. So have fun, guys. And I can come around if you need help. So remember to add your initials too. Let me close this. Actually, hold on. Let me put a timer on here. Timer for 20 minutes. I believe the first one is X, the next one is Y, the next one is Z. But from a 3D perspective, when you see it, you might get disoriented depending on how you position your paper, because what you think might be X might be Z on the screen, so you think, just because of the way you position. I don't know, just experiment. Yeah. And I noticed for the position, it likes small intervals, like between 0 and 1. If you put like 2, it'll be like almost off screen. Yeah. So you could use decimals, right? 0.5, 0.75, something like that. 1.5. So yeah, so try each one at first just to see what, but then after you've tried each one, create a plethora of objects on the same scene. Yeah, a plethora of objects, yeah. And remember to add your initials. And when you add your initials, make sure it's clear that I can see it. It's not covered by some other object. You'll have to play with the position parameter. You might have to, yeah. So while you're doing that, I'm going to eat. Perspective? Good question.
Because right now, we're getting anything under our back here.
Yeah, sure. Maybe if you zoom out, maybe, I don't know. Zooming outward? That's how you do it. Yeah. That's actually pretty cool.
If I remove the box, I've got my initials showing up in blue. I'm just trying to figure out how to use the position.
Oh, well, I notice the position lights between 1 and 1 usually. Because if you put it like 3 and 5, it would be off screen total. So like probably smaller, like 1.5 or 0.5 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you mean, like, it was showing up when it was hello world.
Yeah.
Now it's
Probably hidden.
they're all transparent. So it's still
That's interesting. Just change the position parameter so it's outside.
I've
It should be visible to change.
okay. How would I do that? So if I'm holding up like that, it's not showing up. Yeah, how would I?
I wonder if the marker of the plane has.
I have 0.
So then this wasn't right.
Start.
Yeah. Maybe that was like even.
Yeah. You get, are you still looking at the
You can try moving the line sign. Experiment with the line sign. I have.
Summer. Yes. Yeah, right. That's what I said. It's like way over here.
Was it mine? Oh, sorry, no, it's got like for green. It's got A-dash. You got it?
I don't think it was like. That's fine. Just hand that in. Just hand that in as is.
How do you initials? That's on deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, try to create a GIF to get that bonus mark.
How much is the bonus mark?
Just, I'm gonna add one to your in-class exercise. If you got 2 out of 2, you get 3 out of 2.
Oh. For some reason my text is not showing.
I know for the text, sometimes I have to position it elsewhere.
It's also like positions and I have the same place. It's definitely showing.
I tried.
Yeah, as soon as I change that value.
So I put it in the A-dash text. Color the.
You just comment on the text show.
No.
I don't know why.
Yeah, they do it.
Alright. Maybe it raised.
The disadvantage of this is that.
Horse proud.
Yeah.
Right?
It'd be really cool to make that thing. No?
It is.
Okay.
I started rotating. And the whole came into view. It was behind him. I'm sure that's the one.
When will you try to? Just move the dice over.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I would get that one. Oh, you do the test?
Oh. Right on this break.
Yeah.
So. Okay, cool. Yeah, we get a break here. Are we getting a break with this?
Yeah, so after 7 minutes and 45 seconds, it'll be a break where you can get to submit your stuff and have a break. And just for those of you who are having trouble getting your initials to show or any kind of text to show, if you rotate your paper-based image, so let's say you put it upside down, you might actually see it. Or if you put your paper-based image flat on the table and then rotate it 180 degrees, you might actually see your text. And then so you'll have to position it. And remember to use values that are between 0 and 2. Position. What the hell? Okay. There we go. Looking good.
Would you go about changing the font size?
If you already tried, set attribute font dash size to something bigger and it doesn't work, I don't know.
We have to find a way to change the value. Like when you put the value, it's like like when it says CSS.
Wait, I just thought of something. When you said, Matt, font size, that was in quotes, right? But the value, was that in quotes or not? Try without the quotes for the font size. Because normally in CSS you would not put the.
No.
No? Okay. Never mind.
Probably just wait.
Maybe. I just introduced the technology. It's up to you to find out the answers. Nice.
How do I do GIF?
To make a GIF, look up Camtasia, like Google Camtasia. I think they have like I think they offer like a free version Okay, oh, I see. TechSmith. Yeah, go to techsmith.com, which offers different video editors. And I think there's like a free trial one you could use. I thought there was like a totally free non-trial version that they offered. There's this thing by TechSmith called Snagit that can make either screen captures or GIFs, I think. Else, I think Georgian offers something called Screencast, I think. Screencast. Oh, Screencast-O-Matic, that's it. Check your apps anywhere for Georgian to see if they offer any kind of Screencast-O-Matic or something that allows you to make GIFs. That's why I put it as a bonus mark. Maybe I'll make it an optional thing. Instead of a GIF, you can make it on YouTube, like what I do for live casting. Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Hey, I got a couple objects. I got my initials. Nice. Do I have to have this a screenshot?
It's supposedly, yeah. Typically, you're supposed to. I
Because
think I know.
it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
know.
I kind of have to like hold it appropriate to get it nice
I
and
know.
straight.
Yeah, perfect. And then take a
like that.
screenshot. Yeah.
So I can. So I can.
Which button do you want to press? Oh, you got. Yeah, you got.
I'm trying like the print screen button, but my fingers aren't long enough to reach it while holding on.
I can do it. Which one?
A print screen. It's under insert. It's in blue. Next to the delete key.
Ready?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm not recording. How would I go about making it again? Just opening it like you don't want a media file.
And what application is that?
Just like a file that's not I use
Which program did you make that?
the game art, so like the board.
Oh. Maybe there's a file.
Okay.
I thought your fingers might go there. You don't put your fingers in the computer. I think his fingers go in the way.
Okay, so the first.
There. Good. Good job. Yeah.
No, oh, so small. No,
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's yeah. So take a screenshot of that. All right, the time is up. You now have a break. So you have 5 minutes to submit that and take 20 minutes for a break. FYI, Bun on the Run is selling beaver tails today. Okay.
Oh, I emailed you after what? Oh,
Okay. Yeah. I'll do that right now. Yeah, quick announcement about Webflow. If you haven't given me your email address for Webflow, make sure you do that so that you can do the lab. You got invite that. Line up for fun on the run.
Is that?
Yeah. It just opened.
Did you tap on there, Dad? I forgot my wallet.
Plus 5 is actually 22. Try like then you can go to textmit.com for some trial versions. Check your apps anywhere. Maybe there's something there that's free. Go to my slides. It's all there. I'll go to my slides. Apps anywhere? Oh, how to get the apps anywhere? Like, you can use, are you asking like to make a GIF? Is that what your question is? For apps anywhere? Like, I don't know if there's anything that's there. Like, are you asking me like, you want to create the animated GIF instead of the still screenshot for your submission? Is that what you're asking? For this lab, for this process? Is that your question? Or you're talking about the web for the lab for previous week? Adobe Animate. Okay, is that your question? Oh, now for that one, I made a slight change. You can just do the quiz. So you don't have to do Adobe Animate. You just do the quiz and it'll cover your stuff. So it's easier. Yeah, if you already done it, that's good. You can show it to your portfolio if you want to. So you have something extra to show. You can, that's correct. You just do the quiz and not the. For that one.
Maybe it's back.
Oh, great.
That Westbrook thing, Albert, is the full thing.
No, no.
Oh, thank God.
No. I say,
Oh, here we
there's
go.
only 5 seconds. And I've done pretty much half the work myself by giving you all the markup already. You just have to do
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so they want to do all that.
it.
Not gonna lie.
But the cool one that you like, the credit card one, where you hover the mouse and it goes like that, is one of them
Okay.
that you'll do.
Trying to catch up on all the stuff that I haven't done yet. There's a lot apparently. Actually, Albert. Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
can I see the things that I have not handed in from the first half?
Yeah, so I gave you under weekly learning.
No, I mean me specifically. Like,
Oh,
yeah, because like I noticed in my grades,
okay.
the only thing that's from the front half that I haven't handed in that I can see is discussion 1.
Hold on. Let me try it on this screen. I don't want it to record.
Sure. It's a nice screen. What that screen?
We're under here, here. And where are you here?
On that list.
Uh,
There I am. I have there.
okay, so then so quiz. Let me scroll you down so you're more up. There, so you're at the top of the line.
Mm-hmm.
So, which one do you want to do?
I just really am curious what I have not handed in.
Oh, okay.
Like I know I'm not getting
yeah,
marked for it. I'm just more curious.
Too.
Okay.
So just that. For in-class 5.
Okay.
Class 5.
Okay.
Class 6. You want to write it down or?
No, I'm just more
Okay.
curious. I'm just trying to figure stuff out.
The easiest one, if you're trying to do it for the assignment, I think would be. So lab 1 is easy because you're just identifying a principle of animation, like like take CodePen save button. You know how CodePen has the save button that jiggles.
Mhm.
You can use that example and say this is an example of whatever principle of animation you want.
Yeah.
That's easy. This one is where you have to make a storyboard out of PowerPoint.
Mhm.
So I think it's pretty simple, but
Mhm.
whatever. This one I think was the Christmas icons. It's a little bit
Yeah.
harder. This one was the making your own spinner out of your initials.
Oh yeah.
I think. This one was, I gave you this one, it was just follow the in-class one with the jQuery side nav menu that opens the side menu and then there's an arrow that turns around.
Okay.
I think this is a similar, just follow along. I forget what, oh, that was a Jeopardy thing, I think,
Okay.
or maybe I reversed it.
Yeah. So can the final grades, like the big grades at the end?
This one here?
Yeah, so that's what I'm sitting at currently.
Right. So you already passed, like if you don't do anything.
Yeah,
pass.
right.
So
Okay.
So what's current grade as opposed to final grade?
This is not showing in here. This is hidden.
Yeah, because I see that in some of our classes.
Oh, because it's not taking into account the missed ones.
Like weights and stuff like that.
Like it assumes that you're going to do this stuff. Like,
Oh, okay.
whereas this one doesn't.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. Fun.
Because the way I do it is like this grade can only increase, it'll never decrease, whereas
Right.
this one will eventually decrease if you don't do your stuff.
Right. Okay.
So it's a false positive. That's why I don't like it.
Okay. Cool. So basically, like if I got perfect on everything else, I would just add up the percentages, and that would be the final
Yeah,
grade. Assuming
yeah.
I got perfect on them
Did
all.
you hand in some stuff right now? Like,
I'm working on handing in the new stuff.
okay, so lab 9. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like my guess is if you just handed in, if you didn't do anything else and you just handed in what you got so far, I'm just gonna say add 5 to your mark, so you got 56 plus 5. You'll end up with 61 if you just handed in the stuff you have right now without doing anything else.
Oh, you mean on the assignment?
Or the 7 or 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that though. I want 15. So okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That works. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the easiest one, if you want to tackle the easiest one, just tackle lab 1 right now.
Yeah.
Or lab 1, lab 2.
You know, I think I will write those.
And
Just
week
be one
6,
sec.
yeah.
Where's reminders on this thing? Okay, so. Sure. No, I'm not using them easy notes. Okay, so
Lab 1, lab 2.
2.
Let me just double check if I asked you to do lab 4. Let me see the assignment again. Did I actually say lab 4? Yes, lab 4, lab 5, lab 6. Yes, I did. 4. Let's go back here. So lab 4, lab 5.
Wasn't feeling the labs apparently.
Lab 6. I think this is the easiest one, perhaps.
Okay.
Lab 6 out of, well, maybe, I think this might be easy for you too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, try lab 1, lab 2, lab 6 first. Those are the easiest.
And then it was basically till week 8, right? That's basically.
Yeah, now you got
So that's all the stuff that I have to do for the first half.
Correct.
In the assignment.
Yes.
Okay, that's not too bad. Man, I wish I knew it was all going to be in the assignment. I
Me
would've-
too.
Would have actually done it.
I didn't. Me too. I didn't know what I was gonna make my assignment too the way it was. I had something completely different planned. But yeah, that's beautiful. So, yeah. So save that as a file of some kind. Is that oh you did on your iPhone, right? Yeah. So are you? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can send it.
Okay. Yeah.
And put it to like
Yeah. So make sure you read this. So under assignments, I put three new things here. With frequently asked questions, here these bottom 4 questions are new. So your question is the same as probably one of these.
Oh. Oh, we got answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Albert?
That's fine. Still shut. Oh, yeah, just still kind of. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, chicken face, I get it. We'll find it.
So I'm working on this site for this lady. I haven't started yet, but she's obviously interested. She's looking to pay me. How much do you think I should charge? Because I was looking at a flat fee and I was looking at like an hourly fee and kind of what the difference is. I just don't know. The issue is like I haven't talked to her about money in general. I kind of like.
I've never done freelancing. I would be the worst person to ask for that.
Fair
But there
enough.
is a podcast that I listened to that was exactly on that. Where's my free?
What's right there?
Oh,
That's
shit.
tough.
Psycho. So this website, syntax.fm, it's
Okay.
basically
Is it only available through the site? Like the.
no, you can download it as an app as
Okay,
well.
cool.
Check out all their stuff. Let me see if they have anything on paid. Pay. Oh shoot. Paid. No, pay with a Y. No. Okay, so just. Oops. Yeah, so just check out all their freelance stuff. I'm
Okay.
sure I know they tackled that issue
Okay.
in one of these episodes. I just don't know which one.
Okay. Actually, I think I fought West Boss. Is that
Yeah,
one of the guys?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because I'm doing his the 30-day coding challenge
Yeah,
for
yeah.
JavaScript.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good,
Okay.
good.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back into it here. So just before I move on, so these are the Twitter feeds links that I saw that was kind of interesting that you might like to know about. So this just in, CSS Tricks, April 8th, there is going to be a native lazy loading feature. And how you would do it is in your image source tag, all you have to say is loading equals lazy. Coming up in Chrome 75, according to Adi Osmani, he works for Google. So that's something to keep in mind. Kind of cool. This one here, it's a cool little website that explains certain programming concepts that basically with this kind of style. It's kind of neat. So what is Babel.js? It's a blah, 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 and gives you all the answers in a nice illustrated fashion, which I thought was kind of cool. And in the same vein, if anyone here has heard of Lynn Clark, she's a very popular speaker because of her ability to explain complex concepts in coding with both illustrations and her just the way she explains things. So just check out her page of things that you may want to know about. I'll say that. All right, just a little bit of catch up or tail end of augmented reality. I found this one page on the different terms that you might want to know for augmented reality. So it's like it's like a dictionary or a glossary. So you have all the different definitions for all these different things that you may run into. But the one I want to focus on right now is this one here, GL transmission format, GITF. That's the one that allows you to have your own custom objects that look like that, is this one, GITF. So just remember that. If you're wondering, how do I get my own objects instead of the plain boxes, then that's the answer. It's the GITF, GLTF. There's also this one article I saw recently, well, not recently anymore, but as of February of last year, you can now start seeing this 3D content on your Facebook newsfeed. It's kind of neat. So Facebook now actually has the option to post 3D content using the GLTF 3D file format. So you could actually post something like this in your Facebook. Kind of neat. Okay. This one, I'm just going to quickly glance over this. So this again continues with the how to make your own custom objects. So this is actually the wife of Jerome Etienne, the creator of ARJS, and she made this website where you can play around with some of the custom objects that she has. So for example, on the left-hand side, if I click on Minecraft, for example, and click on Minecraft Batman here, and where's my little, oh, right. So currently I have Minecraft Batman and the other Batman. Wait, hold on. One of them has the actual suited Batman, which I wanted. There it is. Yeah, so you can play with that. You have different kinds of objects here that you can play with and add it to the screen. So basically, I just wanted to wave hand motion. You can play around with that on your own time. This is another thing that I've seen, which is again kind of like mixed reality, kind of. Well, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just not browser based, right? So it's dealing with paper that you put on the ground, and based on the projector above you, and based on how you place the paper, the balls will interact accordingly. And so you could basically have these paper programs, which is kind of neat. I've never seen that before. Let me just play a little bit of this just to see how they. Where's the sound? Oh, did I? It's just explaining how to make one of these in your own home, kind of thing, which is. But I think the big takeaway is that it's really kind of neat to see how reality and the computer is mixing, and it's kind of hard to tell. Probably in the near future, probably hard to tell the difference. Scary, actually. Okay, I'm going to switch topics totally. So this is the third to-do in my to-do list, talking about performance. So this is going back to our first half of the semester, back to CSS. What are the two CSS properties that are most performant that you should use most often to animate something over anything else? What are the two properties in CSS that you should use to animate something over and above other properties that you might want to use? Yeah, transform and opacity. Okay, so those are the two. So to get into performance, I'm just going to briefly say, whenever a browser renders anything on the page, it does these 3 or 4, depending, phases. It first starts with a layout phase, where it calculates different geometry and positions of each of your elements on your page. Then once it calculates that, it does a paint phase, where it fills out all the pixels onto the page. And then finally, it has a composite phase, where it draws the layers out onto the screen. So when you animate, be aware that some of your properties require going through all of these phases, whereas some properties don't, like transform and opacity. So therefore, the fewer the steps, the more performant. And that's why transform and opacity are the two best. So here, someone developed this cool website called csstriggers.com, where it shows you each of the browsers what they actually do. So for example, if you're going to animate the align content CSS property. This engine called Blink, who knows what browser Blink refers to? Chrome. So Blink refers to Chrome. Gecko refers to Firefox. That's the name of the Firefox's engine. WebKit refers to Safari. And Edge HTML refers to Microsoft Edge. Oh, by the way, there was an article saying that Microsoft Edge browser is going to switch their engine to Chrome. Yeah, Chromium in the near future. So that's interesting. Anyway, so if you're going to animate something and you're mindful about performance, you can check this website out and see if it's, how performant is this browser. So if you're going to change the aligned content, then it'll cost you 3 phases for Chrome. And every subsequent phase on that same property will also cost you three phases. So it's not as performant. Let's check out the 2 most performant ones, which is transform, and see how that does. So transform, scroll down here, transform. Look, costs you only 1 here, costs you only 1 here for subsequent changes. Opacity, which I expect would be similar. Okay, 2, and 1 here. So that's why transform and opacity are the 2 best. Everything else has pretty much 3 bars. But that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing animations. And you might think, well, transform and opacity, what can you do with that? According to Val Head, he says, quote, conveniently, transform and opacity are also the most common properties used in motion design. There aren't many animated effects that cannot be pulled off with this list, even though it's a short one. So try to stick with that. Here is a code pen. You don't have to hand this in, but this, if you remember week 5, where we talked about sprites, this is using a sprite where it has a .png file right here. But notice it's not. Notice the animation keyframe here is using background position. And according to CSS triggers, let's take a look at background position. Background position is using 2 bars here and 2 bars here. So it's not as performant as it could be. So in order to make this more performant, you could change this into a what? Transform. So I'm going to attempt to make this more performant just by changing the background position to transform. So what I'm going to do is, instead of putting the image as a background URL on this class called tuna, which is in this div tag, I'm going to just put in my own image tag in there, and then put that image URL in there, right? Which means I no longer need this CSS line that says background URL. Forget that. So now I have all this. I don't want to see all of that, so I want to maybe hide it. So let me just make it more obvious. If I say border 1 pixel solid green, that's all I want to see. I don't want to see the rest of the PNG images, right? So what do I do to hide the rest? Answer, CSS property, at overflow hidden. I should now narrow it down to just 1 of that. And then let's modify the keyframe. So instead of keyframes of modifying the background position, now we're going to make it transform. And that's the Y value. So I'll say translate Y. Oops. And then finally, the final step is removing this animation statement within the tuna class. And we're going to put that in its own. We're going to target the image tag that I just created and put in there. And that should work there. So behind the scenes, it's more performant. Right now, to us, it looks like it's the same thing, but it is more performant. Okay. Close that up. So again, just a slide to reiterate 4 things a browser can animate cheaply: position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Which when I first saw this slide, there was something missing, I thought. What was the other transform property that we learned about? That's not on that slide. Transform what? No, we got translate. What was the other one? There's a 4th one. Skew. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Yes, so I'm not sure if skew was left off on the slide on purpose, or maybe the person just forgot to include that. But I would guess skew would fall in the same thing, because I don't think it would be totally different in terms of performance. This one here, if you ever see this translate 3D in your code. It's a hack to make it your animations more performant. If you use GreenSock, you don't have to worry about that because by default it's already there behind the scenes. Here I found this cool YouTube video on performance. So on the left-hand side, which is this side, you're going to see an animation frame by frame. So this animation was actually taken at 240 frames per second so that we could see the slow motion. And you're going to see a difference. So on the left-hand side, it's going to be different with the right-hand side. Question, which is the more smooth one, right or left? Right. The right one is using transform. The left one is not, using something like top left, right? Something like that. So that's so one is done with transforms, the other isn't. So you can see the difference in what it makes. So just keep that in mind. And I think I'm just closing up, wrapping up things you should know. You can use Chrome Dev Tools to see your animations as well. So if we were to go back to some kind of animation, let me go back to the cat one, for example. And right-click on that, go to Inspect. I think under the Performance tab, here we can record the animation for a few seconds and then stop it just to see and analyze, and you got your different things that you can look at, FYI. Firefox has the same kind of thing, but it gives you a nice waterfall effect that looks like this. And that's it. That is pretty much the end of class. That's all I have to teach. So for next week, there is no lesson. It'll just be work on your project, and I'll be here to help you. But for now, we're going to play Kahoot, and I've actually created 2 Kahoots, 5 questions each. And on the line are not top stickers. First prize gets 3, second gets 2, third place gets 1. Right? So, and we have two Kahoots to go. And this is a good review for the whole semester. So the first Kahoot's going to review the first half of the semester, pretty much. And the second Kahoot will review the second half of the semester before basically GreenSock. All right, so let's go to it. What's that? So there's nothing to teach there. There's nothing there. All right. Let me log in. Thanks, maybe later. Oops. Okay, so let me just stop the YouTube. Any final comments or questions before I stop the recording on YouTube? Okay, we'll stop it. All right.